Hello, this is John Locke, and today we're answering a question from Reddit. Now, the original poster asked, and they said, we've got an SEO client. They are an e-commerce shop that sells oral health products. And in February of 2018, they had a record-setting month, most users that they had ever had. Now, starting in November of 2018, they started seeing a drop in traffic, and in fact in January of 2019 this site was down to maybe 3% of their traffic that they had in February of 2018. So they lost 97% of their traffic. So a lot of the traffic that they were getting beforehand was from resource pages. So these were resource pages that were written by dentists, people that were in dental care. They were experts. And the reason why this is important is because in August of 2018, there was a major update to Google that affected what's called your money or your life sites. So meaning if the information on these sites dealt with financial information, health, or things that would otherwise affect your well-being, they were treated in they were held to a much higher standard, I should say, than other sites. So anything that has to do with your well-being, your prosperity, your health, these things are being held to a higher standard. But from what people were saying, it didn't seem, or the original poster said this, I should say, he didn't think that it had necessarily to do with this. A lot of people said that it could have been something around that was in the Google user rater guidelines called EAT, which is an acronym for expertise, authority, and trustworthiness. Now, a lot of people took this to mean that you had to have authors with expertise, and this is what this person did. They said that their resource pages were written by people who had expert knowledge in that field, and they reflected that in putting author bios at the bottom of each page. Now, I think any site that has any type of blog or articles probably should have something similar to that, but I think there's a lot of cases where it doesn't necessarily make that huge of a difference. Now, this person also went on to say that they had done a few things already. And I don't want to give the impression that this person was taking care of the SEO from February 2018 up until now. From what they indicated, this was a brand new client. So some things that they had done on the site were more on the technical SEO end. They had cleaned up URL parameters, so meaning the web address, and then it has question mark and all these different things like search parameters that were being indexed by Google. They cleaned those up. They did 301 redirects, so meaning any links that were incoming to that page, any internal links, and they were going to a different web address or just going to a page not found, they cleaned those up. And they said that they also combined a lot of thin pages where there was thin content and combined it into one article. Now, what stood out to me is this person said, there was two things that they said. They said that the articles were of high quality because they were 2,000 words long. They were written by, dental pros or experts in the field. And the other thing that they had said that they had done was filed a disavow file with Google. Now, for those who don't know, a disavow file is when you've had a bunch of spammy links that are coming into your site, either as a result of a competitor trying to do a negative SEO campaign on you and build links from sites that are spammy, build all sorts of spammy links. Usually these will be like from porn sites or from Viagra pills and pharma, all kinds of just nasty links coming into your site. So I'm guessing that this person didn't build these links. I'm guessing that the e-commerce company in the past, they employed somebody that did this. And so he saw these and was like, I better file a disavow file in Google because that's why they're dropping. So this is my thought on this. when I look at what's actually ranking for those types of resource pages, meaning if you're looking up oral health care resources like what is gingivitis, how to cure gingivitis, how to cure this, how to cure that, how do you treat this, how do you treat that, these sorts of things. What I noticed, and I don't know if you noticed this as well, but what I noticed dominating the first page and the second page of Google results were brands. So what I saw were pages from Mayo Clinic, Merck, Colgate, Crest, a bunch of other like big brands, Gum, all these different big brands that have to do with oral care. And I think that your client, the one with the e-commerce site that lost all this traffic from the resource pages, I don't think it necessarily has to do with, having authors that are known dentists. I think it has to do with the fact that they weren't taking enough steps to differentiate themselves as a reputable brand. So it sounds like the primary function of this website before was an e-commerce site, not an informational site. And maybe it would be more helpful to have a subdomain on this brand or another site that is all about the information and link it to this other like e-commerce brand in some way. Or just try and become a big brand along the levels of WebMD or Crest or Mayo Clinic, and it's a long road to become that. And I think just getting a couple articles from dentists is a little bit tougher. Here's the problem with the way that people interpret the so-called Medic Update and the Your Money in Your Life and Eat and all this. They think by adding like author bio boxes on the page, like it's somehow going to give a credibility to Google. The problem lies in this. Google is moving toward like understanding entities. So a person like a dentist or a marketer or an expert in any field, what sites are they connected to? And think about it like this. If a website is a node and links are edges that connect those nodes, meaning they connect them to entities to another, an author to a site. If they're not closely associated except for that one article, it's going to be really hard for Google to say that this site it receives the benefit of expert writing because it's just this one thing. It needs to see either more examples of this person writing out there or more examples that this site really deserves that kind of praise. Because it sounds like in the past that they've done some spammy link building, and I wouldn't have put a disavow file in there because honestly all that does is tell Google that you've engaged in spammy link building in the past. If I think that they're really getting penalized for not doing brand building, or I shouldn't say penalized, but the drop happened because they're not engaged in actual brand building practices. So building spammy links, Google just pretty much ignores them. I wouldn't disavow them at all. I think that was a major mistake and a misstep. I wouldn't do that. But what I would do is either establish a second site that is all about expertise and take a couple of years to build it up and then link back to that e-commerce site, or do things that are actually building up that e-commerce site as differentiating itself from everywhere else. Because I think that if you're relying on traffic from those resource pages and it's on an e-commerce site, it's sending mixed signals to Google. It's saying this is an e-commerce site, but this is an informational site as well. And Google doesn't really know what to do with that. So somehow you've got to be sending traffic back to that e-commerce site and not just getting traffic from information that's on the web. The second thing that I want to say too is just because an article is long doesn't mean it's high quality or engaging or well written or deserves to rank. I would really look at what other people have written. There's only so many ways you can write about gingivitis or tooth decay or whatever it is that the products are trying to pitch. And so you've got to write about it in a way that matches not only what Google is already ranking, which I think is going to be really hard in this case because they're going with brands. And if your company that you're working with is not taking brand building actions up to this point, it's not going to be trusted. And I think that's the bottom line with these your money or your life sites. Brands are getting the benefit. Big brands are getting the benefit. Brands that have been around for a long time and aren't just like trying to sell goods. That's the real thing that I see happening with that. So I think you have a lot of issues here with this. I think you're going to have to take a more long-term approach to building SEO back up. And I think they're going to have to do more than a few resource pages. They're going to have to be a long-standing thought leader in this space and not just get a couple one-off articles from Dennis. Second thing is I would look at these articles again and kind of fit them into a pattern of what the top ranking things are answering. Does it answer the same questions, or does it just kind of move the words around in a different way? I think that's a problem. I think the author bios are not necessarily a thing. If you could get a couple dentists that are highly regarded and are highly regarded in their field and have them from their personal site link to this e-commerce site or the informational site where you're trying to build up the traffic again, that would be, I think, more useful. And as another poster in this thread mentioned, part of the problem might be is that you're not getting links from other dental websites. And like I'm saying, if you could get an actual dentist to link from their site, or get other dentists or, oral care surgeons to, link to this e-commerce site somehow, some way, that might be more beneficial than getting a bunch of random links that you're going to later have to disavow. That, without knowing any more about the situation, this is just what it sounds like. I would really work on establishing yourself as a brand and something that, oral care people would want to be associated with, and I think you're going to have a much longer road on this than you think. That's my 2 cents. My name's John Locke. My business is Lockedown in SEO, and normally we don't help dentists. We help industrial and manufacturing companies build up their traffic by analyzing their SEO and helping them get more RFQs. And we've got some great case studies coming up. So if you have an SEO question, please drop it in the comments below. We'd love to answer. And by the way, we're putting out videos every week, so be sure to subscribe and get some of that SEO knowledge. Until next time, peace.